But it's hotter inside of the Bowie County Courthouse these days. Joining me in studio is Bowie County Judge Sterling Lacy. Good morning, sir.
We're not going to talk about the weather this morning?
Now, there's a tempest brewing, evidently.
There is.
All right, front page of the paper. When you walked in this morning to the studio, I said, can't you stay out of the paper? Your comments about Commissioner's Court yesterday and what's going on with the clerk.
Well, first of all, several major issues were settled by the court yesterday, but the one that made the news the most, of course, was we finally decided this issue over the control of the minutes of Commissioner's Court, which is our history. Mm-hmm. We had somebody in last week, had to go back into the minutes of Commissioner's Court from the 1960s to settle an issue, to find out how the court voted then, almost 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is a very important issue. But we decided it's about time to take it out of the court of public opinion and put it over in a court of law. Now,
give us a scenario where the commissioners would amend their own minutes. Why would they do something like that?
Well, for instance, the major flaw that we've seen for months now in the minutes that the clerk has presented to us, and that's what she's to do. She's to make the most accurate record of the minutes she can, attest that those are true, and present them to Commissioner's Court. And we believe at that point, then, if we find an error, then we have a right to amend our historical record so it reflects accurately what we did. The biggest issue I've seen for months now has been to start the orders of the court with the devotional, with the prayer, and the pledge, the first three orders of the court. Mm-hmm. And we have clearly, by legal advice, we've clearly made sure that we did all those preliminaries before we called the court to order. Mm-hmm. And so for the record, possibly for future court cases, maybe going all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, it's very important that our minutes accurately reflect exactly what we've done in our sessions.
And so this is really about, then, going into those minutes and being able to amend those minutes by the courts doing themselves, right?
By an order of the court.
Okay.
And once those minutes are set, only an order of the court, our attorney believes, can change those minutes then.
So this is about, again, I'm trying to get this straight because a lot of people are saying to me, what's the big deal here? Well, for me, it creates a constitutional crisis in a way. But the court has to retain the ability to correct their own minutes, right?
Yes, we believe we have that responsibility under law, and we've asked another judge and another court to take into consideration our arguments and the county clerk's arguments and give us direction, set an order and say, here is the way it is. Here's who's right. Here's who's wrong about this.
How do you respond to people that say, look, we're spending all this money we're spending all this county tax money on paying for an attorney for something like this? How do you respond to something like that?
Well, see, let's say 4 years from now, something coming, a lot of those boring votes that we consider, issues that we consider and all.
Sure.
4 years from now, somebody could have a major legal issue and come back and say, what happened October the 31st on this particular issue where the court allowed this, who voted on this, who set up these funds to be collected and used in a certain way. And if you were that person, you'd want the minutes to be as accurate as possible.
And so it's the court's opinion or the court's decision that we want to prevent something in the future by spending some money now.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, the minutes of the court become the history of the court, and we make a dozen legal decisions or more every time we meet. And I know sometimes opening those bids and listening to us read those off.
Sausage making.
I know it sounds boring, but somebody's life is going to be directly impacted by this. It could be one of our highway projects. And here we are voting to allow the funds to buy one more little piece of right-of-way so a road can come out and match the highway just right, kind of thing. That could be a legal issue years from now for a property owner that bought a piece of land and didn't realize they didn't own that little corner down there anymore.
That's true.
So this is really important for the history of the court, for the people of Bowie County. We've got to get it settled. I wish this weren't an issue. This is not the most pleasant thing I've had to do on my job. But I am old enough to remember when Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
Finally on this subject, so I have a couple more to get to here, but finally on this subject, what is next? What will happen? Give us a scenario. What could happen next?
Well, now this is set for a hearing a week from today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the courthouse, and we're seeking temporarily for the judge to simply go ahead and order what we're asking for, and then there will be a more serious, thorough consideration and some final permanent decision over how the minutes are to be handled.
Okay. Now, speaking of the minutes, you guys sought counsel from Liberty Institute yesterday, some friends of ours, and wonderful folks at Liberty. Jeff Mateer, I met him a couple of years ago, actually. Great guy. What was the result of that, and how will this affect the minutes?
We asked these constitutional specialists that have studied not just the Constitution, the laws, but also the court decisions been handed down to give us some guidance. We had every intention to continue to have an invocation before we start our session, but we wanted to understand the times in which we live, and so they've helped us put together a multi-page policy that we will now follow that takes into consideration every major court decision on prayer at public meetings, and we'll follow that to the letter. And these folks have said, if you follow the policy we've recommended, if you get sued by the Freedom from Religion Foundation or ACLU, whoever it might be, for having this invocation, we will come in and we will defend the county at no expense to the county.
Excellent. All right, next time we'll have to talk about the time warrants issue and kind of give us a little instruction on what is a time warrant versus what is a bank loan.
Please don't call them time warrants.
So we'll talk about that next time. But the county's in good shape, though, correct? Because I know there's some money in savings that you guys can pay off some equipment with, but there's another $600,000 out there that you got to come up with. But you got that, right?
But we got it, and at the end of this budget year, we will be out of almost $3 million of debt that was rolled forward year after year.
Excellent. Judge Lacy, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me,
Appreciate
Jeff.
it.